The little girl had already chased away 12 maids in less than 6 months. Each time, her parents tried to explain, to persuade, to scold, or to reward. But nothing seemed to work. The moment a new maid entered their grand mansion, the daughter's eyes would narrow, her lips would twist, and within days, sometimes even hours, the maid would walk out crying, exhausted, defeated. Her name was Emily, only 7 years old, the daughter of a millionaire businessman, Daniel, and his wife, Claire. From the outside, their lives looked perfect. A sprawling estate, shining cars lined up in the driveway, vacations in Italy and Switzerland. But behind the glossy walls, there was a silence, a tension, and a little girl who seemed impossible to love. Daniel had built his empire with his own hands. He was proud, disciplined, a man who believed money solved most problems. Claire had been a teacher before marrying him, gentle soul. But years of loneliness and Daniel's long hours had hardened her. They loved their daughter, but Emily was difficult, too clever for her age, too sharp with her words, too guarded with her emotions. "No one stays," Claire whispered one night as she sat by the window, watching Emily sleep. "Why is it so hard for her to let anyone in?" Daniel rubbed his forehead, tired. "Maybe we just haven't found the right person. Someone patient. Someone who won't run away at the first tantrum." But deep inside, even he wondered if there was something broken in his little girl. The next morning, a new maid arrived. She was not impressive at first glance. Her name was Maria, mid-30s. Plain clothes, no makeup, hair tied back in a simple bun. Unlike the others, she didn't seem intimidated by the mansion's chandeliers or marble floors. She greeted Claire softly, took Daniel's hand firmly, and when she was introduced to Emily, she knelt down, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "Hello, Emily, here to help. Not to replace anyone, just to help." Emily frowned, crossed her arms, and muttered, "You won't last a week." Maria smiled gently. "We'll see." From the very beginning, things were different. On the first day, Emily spilled juice deliberately on the floor, waiting for Maria to panic or scold her. Maria didn't. She calmly handed Emily a towel. "You made the mess. You helped me clean it. That way, it's fair." Emily blinked, surprised. No one had ever said that before. On the second day, Emily shouted at Maria, accusing her of touching her toys. Maria didn't argue. She simply said, "I'll only touch them if you invite me. Until then, they're yours." For the first time, Emily had no comeback. Claire and Daniel watched in disbelief. They had expected Maria to run away within hours. But she didn't. She didn't raise her voice, didn't quit, didn't flinch. Instead, she listened. At night, when Emily had nightmares and screamed for her mother, it wasn't Claire who reached her first, but Maria. She would sit on the edge of the bed, humming softly, her hand resting on Emily's back until the child fell asleep again. Weeks passed. Slowly, almost invisibly, Emily began to change. She still had her storms, her anger, but between them came moments of softness. She began asking Maria questions. "Why do you always smile? Don't you ever get tired?" Maria would laugh lightly. "Of course, I get tired, but kindness is lighter to carry than anger." One evening, Daniel came home early and overheard something that stopped him cold. Emily was sitting on the kitchen counter, talking to Maria in a voice so quiet, so vulnerable, that he almost didn't recognize it. "My mommy and daddy are always busy. Everyone leaves me. Even the maids leave. Will you leave too?" Daniel felt his heart twist. Maria placed a hand over Emily's small one. "I will stay as long as you want me here. And even if one day I have to go, I want you to remember something very important. People leave sometimes, but it doesn't mean they don't love you. And it doesn't mean you're not worth loving." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but for the first time, she didn't hide them. She leaned into Maria's shoulder and whispered, "Promise?" Maria kissed the top of her head. "Promise." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay awake beside Claire, thinking about what he had heard. For all his wealth, for all the luxuries he had built, he had failed to give his daughter what she needed most: presence, patience, love. The next morning, he surprised everyone. He told his assistant to cancel a major meeting. Instead, he took Emily to school himself. She stared at him in shock. "You're not going to work?" "Not today," Daniel said. "Today, I'm walking you in." Her little hand slipped into his, hesitant but hopeful. That was the first time in years she had let him hold her hand without pulling away. From then on, things began to shift. Claire started spending more time in the garden with Emily, teaching her how to grow flowers. Daniel tried reading bedtime stories, fumbling through silly voices that made Emily laugh until her stomach hurt. And Maria, she remained the quiet bridge between them, guiding with gentleness, but never overshadowing. The true turning point came one winter night. Emily fell sick, burning with fever. She was delirious, crying out, pushing everyone away except Maria. Maria sat by her side all night, cooling her forehead, whispering soothing words. When dawn finally broke, Emily clutched Maria's hand and whispered, "I don't want to lose you." Daniel and Claire stood in the doorway, tears streaming down their faces. At that moment, they realized it wasn't just about finding someone who could handle their daughter. It was about learning from her. Maria hadn't done the impossible by magic. She had done it with kindness, patience, and love, the very things Daniel and Claire had been too busy, too distracted to give. Weeks later, when Emily was healthy again, Daniel called Maria into his study. He tried to offer her a higher salary, a bonus, gifts, but she shook her head. "I'm grateful, but I didn't come here for the money. I came because every child deserves to feel safe, to feel loved." And Emily, she just needed someone to believe in her. Daniel's throat tightened. "You've taught us more than we could ever pay you for." Maria smiled. "Then keep teaching her. Don't let her forget." Years later, Emily would grow into a confident, kind-hearted young woman. She would tell people, with pride and gratitude, about the maid who didn't run away, who stayed, who showed her parents what love really looked like. And Daniel and Claire, older and wiser, would never forget the woman who had walked into their mansion, not as a servant, but as a reminder that kindness is the greatest wealth, that love is the true luxury, and that sometimes, the person you least expect can change your family forever.